Honey Trinity College and the Titanic Belfast. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For our lowest car insurance price guaranteed, go online to the aa.ie.
Rain tonight with a risk of spot flooding in places, turning dry though later with just the odd scattered shower. Minimum temperatures of 7 to 10 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Well, hello there. We have God on the show this evening, I'm excited to tell you. And yes, I do mean Peter Canavan, one of the greats, coming up around 7:30 on the football show, Dan McDonnell, as we build up to Slovakia-Ireland tomorrow evening. Live commentary here on the show, by the way. Thoughts too later on from Matt Doherty, Callum Robinson and Stephanie Roach. We have a special guest appearance from Jamie Heaslip with Keith Wood on Wednesday Night Rugby. That's coming your way after 8 o'clock. And we'll bring you some of DJ Carey, who was on OTB AM this morning. 53106, the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, I can hear you clearing your throat there.
Readying myself for the 22 minutes of joy that lie ahead, Joseph.
Well, indeed. Buckle up, because Adrian Barry's here. The joy just got more joyous. Adrian Barry, hello.
Only 18 minutes now with all this.
Good Lord, you're right.
Palaver.
Well, let's get into some issues then. Let's get stuck in, Adrian Barry, because I know this caught your eye. The Times of Ireland this morning reporting that the government's set to meet with the FAI to request that Vera Pauw's side are paid the same as their male counterparts in Stephen Kenny's setup. So the men's team at the moment receive, I wasn't even sure of the figures actually, I knew it was nominal enough relatively speaking to their wages at club level, but they receive €2,500 as a basic appearance fee before any extras such as win bonus and so on. The women's team get 20% of that, €500 per game. So Jack Chambers, Junior Sports Minister, saying that the Minister and I will be engaging with the FAI and the 20 by 20 campaign to ensure this is addressed. And I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't be. Brazil in August established parity of pay for the football teams. England have done it, Norway have done it, New Zealand have done it. And frankly, we should get on with it and do it, I would think. Adrian, is your view?
Yeah, absolutely. It's complicated by the state of the economy at the minute, isn't it? My initial thoughts were like wondering why Jack Chambers is it posturing? Like, why is he telling us he's going to do this thing? And what are they going to do? March out to Abbottstown and say, hey lads, yeah, about that thing that we told the media about the other day, we're here to chat about that. So I don't fully understand that aspect of it. Unless are they going to go out and insist? Because that would be another. They could, I presume, they would have that power, given that they obviously, as has been highly spoken, publicly spoken about over the last couple of months, have obviously a strong level of funding with the FAI. So they could insist on it. Obviously, would be one thing.
I mean, certainly given the bailout, they could just say, hey, remember that bailout? By the way, there's this other thing we'd like to get your thoughts on. What do you think? Do you agree with us? Yeah. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, so that's it does feel a bit like posturing, right? Like we're all discussing it before they've gone and talked to the FAI about it, which might have been the most courteous thing to have done. But I've no idea how the politics work behind all the scenes.
No, I think you're right. I think this is such a home run, and I think everybody will pretty much agree that this is what should be done, that there's probably a bit of a race to get in there and claim credit for it now. So I think there is an element of Jack Chambers coming out and saying, well, I'm going to get this done. And of course, everyone is in mind, I would suspect, to get it done. So Jack Chambers gets the high fives from everyone.
And like it was funny because we had Jenny Murphy, the former Ireland rugby player, on AM last Friday, and we were talking to her about the Irish rugby game, and Fiona Steed had mentioned that she didn't feel it would go. It was possible to bring the game professional, and so Jenny was kind of broadly in agreement with that. And I don't know, I just got to wondering about what the barriers to something like that will be, because nothing is impossible actually. There's plenty of reasons why it couldn't happen, but you've got the commercial side, the competition side, obviously, that you would need, and the crowds obviously that you'd need as well, and maybe how you start to chip away at that. And maybe there are lessons even within the football side of it. And I was wondering, would it be possible on the football side to do a Cardiff City or a Swansea City on it and build an Irish team with, we have so many players now who are feeding into the national team who are playing their football at the best clubs in England, and high profile players. And I wondered if there was some sort of reverse grab we could do where you set up a national team here. Not a national, you couldn't call them a national team because they'd never let us into the league if we went that way about it. But a team to compete in the WSL, do a Cardiff on it or a Swansea on it. Like,
it's happening in cricket.
You know, what's that?
It's happened in cricket. Like, there are Irish teams, Irish representative teams, competing in county championships and one-day championships in England for God back decades now at this stage. So, like, in the realm of sport, it's not entirely unusual. And when you see the small number of clubs that there are in the women's league here, it's like not beyond the realm of possibility. And given that there have been, I guess, unions between clubs over the past couple of years as well, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
It's an interesting shout, Adrian. Very interesting shout.
When you look at the things that I mentioned there, like about commercial competition crowds, suddenly when you're looking at suddenly we're in a different position now than we were even a year ago. Because when I talk about Katie McCabe, Louise Quinn, Niamh Fahey, Leanne Kiernan, Stephanie Roach, to be fair, I maybe had a higher profile before that, but like suddenly these are household names that people, Denise O'Sullivan, that people they know who they are. A lot of people know who they play for, and suddenly it becomes an attractive prospect. Like, you would get sponsorship if you were playing in that quality of a league. You'd have exposure. You'd have TV money. You'd get crowds, like, home and away. I don't know, and I don't know if the same point would extend to, like, there's a, I think, is it the Super 15s in the rugby in England? It might be a stretch. I think we could do the same thing for the women's game in rugby. I'm not sure, but certainly from an Irish football point of view, I know it's not exactly the topic here, but rather than sort of spending a bunch of time responding to Jack Chambers' posturing, Joe, I just thought it might have been an interesting thing to throw out there.
No, it's very interesting. It's well worth investigating, maybe doing a few follow-up pieces on, even just on the viability of it, and see where we go. You see, you're not just a pretty face, Barry. You're an ideas man as well. You've got it all. I'm not even going to rise to your posturing, Joe. So let's kick into this newsround then, because we've got a lot to get through. It is, as ever, with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. Richie, you're starting with build-up to tomorrow's Do or Die clash. I think, by the way, it's been, the build-up to this in some ways, Stephen Kenny did his press conference on Sunday, and then probably because of events at Old Trafford and Villa Park and then Neffet and everything else, on another week, we would have had heavy build-up from Monday. This would have been on the back pages, Stephen Kenny from Monday. In some ways, we're catching up because it's such a big game.
Well, there's very few media around it as well, to be fair, because how many are able to actually travel over to Bratislava and back, or have been cleared to? Like, it's actually very few, and that impacts, I guess, on how many people can access information from the squad, etc., etc. But anyway, as you mentioned, the Republic of Ireland squad have been training at the National Stadium in Bratislava this evening ahead of that Euro 2020 playoff with Slovakia. Josh Cullen was added to the squad yesterday, the Anderlecht midfielder replacing the injured Harry Arter. Arter and Seamus Coleman remain the only confirmed absentees for what is Stephen Kenny's biggest game in charge to date. With Coleman out, Matt Doherty will start at right back, and he's been talking about his relationship with the Ireland captain.
When I played, he's fully supportive. When he plays, I'm fully supportive. We understand the situation, that there's two of us that happen to be playing most of the time at big clubs and playing well. So there's no animosity between us at all. We're quite good friends. Although he didn't answer my call last night, so I don't know what that was about. But look, other than that, we're pretty close, and he'll be texting me probably later on saying all the best tomorrow. So the relationship is very healthy.
Well, that's obviously a disappointment to all of us, Adrian. We want beef.
Give us more beef, Joe. That's a good life lesson. Do
you want a bit of positivity here? I put this to Dan McDonnell on the football show later on. So Aidan Fitzmaurice, the Independent, was speaking to Lubo Moravcik in Slovakia. And so, we were very self-obsessed and not talking too much about Slovakia. So he's saying Ireland are favourites. Most of the Irish players play at a high level. They're in the Premier League, or they've played a lot there. So Ireland are the favourites. Slovakia have a problem in the squad. We've good players, but they don't play for their clubs. He said Hamsik is here, but we don't know how the form is. We have too many players who are out of competition, out of form. We don't have the players to replace them. It's a big problem for us. We have a small squad, some good quality, but when our best players are missing or are not match fit, we are weaker. You can't go from the bench at your club into a big playoff for the Euros. I see the Premier League. I know your players play a lot for their clubs. It's an advantage for you. I like the sound of this.
And they're missing players as well.
You sure? Yeah. So
just announced this evening that Stanislav Lowacka is going to be missing from the game. He wasn't released in time by his club Napoli. The midfielder had been identified by Stephen Kenny as one of Slovakia's key players. Slovak coach Pavel Hapal blamed a lack of communication from the Naples side, who were quarantining after a string of COVID-19 cases. Speaking of COVID-19 within the Slovakia squad, Hapal also said today that they're awaiting the result of one squad member. It came back as ambiguous, which is a bit of a worrying term on their behalf. So they're going to find out this evening whether or not that player is going to be cleared to play. Mikhail Juris, a forward of theirs, is already missing. Their first choice goalkeeper, Martin Dubravka of Newcastle's missing with an ankle injury. They're not at their best. They're in bad form. This is a very good time to get them.
Yeah, so like you would have to say, Adrian, that positive in the backroom team aside, this is pretty much a seamless preparation, as seamless as you can have, you know, under the current circumstances with, you know, everybody playing at the weekend, and there's no big injury concerns in that first 11, 12, 13, 14 players. And you look at Slovakia in really shaky shape. I mean, it's starting to get a good feeling about this.
I think you lads are getting sucked in by Lubo Moravcic's
3-0, I'd say. Maybe 4-0, Adrian.
About his negativity about his own team. Like, geez, you get no shortage of Irish former. You would find former Irish players, certainly pundits, that would come forward and be just as realistic, is that the word, about the Irish prospects.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. It's funny. Like, you were even talking about the build-up, Joe. I don't feel that excited about it yet, and I suppose some of that is down to, like, obviously Stephen Kenny is still trying to work his magic, get the style bedded in and all that sort of stuff. But like, it's been a while since I've looked forward to the football in an Ireland game. The drama of it, 100%, bring it on. But the actual football, not sure about.
I think it'll start to hit a lot of us kind of 5 o'clock territory tomorrow. This is on. This is big and really big. But then, you know, geez, it's been such a tough time, and I think we're all realising the winter that we're in for increasingly, you know, and that's hanging over us. And we mightn't be in level 5, but we know Nefet wanted it, and they didn't want that for the crack, and so that's there, isn't it? And I think that puts the game into context a little bit. So I think that's been part of this week. But come 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow, when we're starting to build up to it, hopefully the excitement will kick in. Not to bring the tone down again then, Richie, but there's been more COVID outbreaks.
Yeah, we'll start with Fermanagh. Their remaining games in Division 2 of the Alliance Football League are in doubt. The county board has suspended all activity in the county, including inter-county training, and it's after a number of players on the senior football panel tested positive for COVID-19. Ryan McMenamin's side are due to play Clare in Ennis in 11 days' time before a meeting with Laois, and their Ulster Championship campaign is due to begin against Down in early November. In football as well, St. Pat's today confirmed a case of COVID-19 in their playing squad. The rest of the squad and the coaching staff are now restricting their movements as they await testing. Friday's SSE Electricity Premier Division game with Dundalk at Richmond Park has been postponed as a result. Pat's the second team in as many days to confirm a coronavirus infection, following 2 cases yesterday at Galway United.
Yeah, like, again, I know people hate hearing the daily announcements, and they are sometimes volatile, but 611 new cases today, you know, it's no surprise this is creeping into sports teams, Adrian. And, you know, the GAA Championship in particular, playing the club thing was probably the right thing to do and got the most people involved and active. Obviously, the downside is the Inter-County Championship has to happen in the winter, and increasingly that looks precarious.
Yeah, and I think that part of the rationale, listening to Alan Milton out yourself the other night, behind pulling the club game was obviously to try and secure the championship game if at all possible. And fair play to them, by the way. Maybe it was a bit late, but certainly good leadership there that they decided to do that, I think, in the context of everything that's going on. But like you're suggesting, I take it that we're sort of headed in one direction. I
feel that way increasingly, yeah. I'm listening to lots of different people, and yeah, it does feel that way. Are you gone? You've just hung up the phone.
I think he's just shocked and saddened by the potential lack of championship action for Westmeath in the autumn.
I have you now, lads.
Sorry, we thought you just hung up the phone in disgust.
I have you now.
Can you hear us now, yeah? I don't think he can hear us.
I don't think he can, no.
Say something about him there he wouldn't like. Don't.
Look at him there with the big Matthias Sammer head on him.
Look at the head on him.
Yeah.
Odd-looking fella, Adrian Barry. No, he definitely can't hear. Okay.
Very Teutonic, yeah, he's gone.
So we'll get it back in a moment for a final word from Adrian. Where are we next?
To Munster, Keith Earls is a doubt for the resumption of Ireland's Six Nations campaign. Munster say the experienced winger is rehabbing a back injury after he missed last weekend's win away to the Scarlets. No time frame has been placed on Earls' return. Ireland play Italy at the Aviva on the 24th of this month before travelling to Paris a week later. There's further bad news from Munster this evening, with Niall Scannell said to have sustained a neck injury in training last week, and he'll undergo surgery, with the hooker expected to be sidelined for approximately 2 months, while Neil Cronin suffered an ACL injury in training on Monday, and he will meet with the specialist on Friday to discuss surgery.
Excuse me, Richie, sorry. Adrian, you're back now, I'm told.
Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about there, but I'm back.
No worries. No, Richie was saying a few mean things about you when you couldn't hear us, but we're back now. We're back in business. Yes, we thought you'd hung up in disgust when I said, yeah, I do feel it is going one way on the GAA front, unfortunately. It's just 32 counties. How do you... Well, Alan Milton said we may have to have forfeits, you know, and at what point, if you have half a dozen forfeits, does it just render the championship, you know, there's too much of an asterisk beside it?
Kildare will never have a better chance, Joe, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Look, if Kildare just win it by forfeit alone, it counts.
It does count.
Yeah. So, I don't know, that's where we are. What do you think?
I don't know, look at it, there's a degree of the impossible prediction about it. Like, we just don't know. You listen to Tony Holland there in the news, and he is of a view that we are only headed in one direction. And if that happens, then the blindingly obvious will happen in the next week or two. Like, you hope and pray that it doesn't, but you suspect it does. And as you say, I suppose even if we do get to the point where it all goes ahead, there are going to be, like, we're this far out now, and there are increasing number of stories of teams being impacted by it, and ultimately that impact means that they have to get out of the championship. So you're left with what you're left with, which might be very few teams involved, or potentially the cancellation of it entirely. Yeah,
no, I think so. Look, if teams are having outbreaks now, there's absolutely no reason they won't be having outbreaks in 3 and 4 weeks' time. That's just the reality. It's inconceivable that wouldn't happen, I think, unfortunately. So on that dreary note, Richie, where are we going next?
Back to France. They've confirmed 5 uncapped players in their squad for the remaining Six Nations game with Ireland on Halloween. Among them are Racing duo Olivier Clemenchak and Georges-Henri Colombe. Joining them are Lyon second row Kylian Garassi, Toulouse number 8 Silvasio Tolofua, and La Rochelle winger Arthur Retier. Not all rosy on the French side. An impasse remains between the French Union and the French League over players released for international duty. The League don't want to let players go for the warm-up game with Wales on the 24th of this month. They only want a 5-game window, and the French Rugby Union are not happy about that. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic lost the first set of his French Open quarter-final to Pablo Carreño Busta. Djokovic has since won the second 6-2. It was against the Spaniards that Djokovic defaulted at the US Open, remember, when he hit a line judge with a ball. Stefanos Tsitsipas cruised into the semi-finals and awaits the winner of that match. The 5th seed beat Andrei Rublev 7-5, 6-2, 6-3. Sophia Kenin won through to just her second ever Grand Slam semi-final today. The women's 4th seed beat her fellow American Danielle Collins in 3 sets to reach the semi-finals, and she'll play Petra Kvitova next. The Czech 7th seed ended the run of Laura Siegemund in straight sets, and it's the first time that Kvitova has reached the semi-finals since the knife attack at her home that almost ended her career nearly 4 years ago, I should say. The 2-time Wimbledon champion says it's been tricky to keep her emotions in check this week.
Yeah, I got emotional in my last match. It was the happy tears, definitely, so I wasn't sad. It was just everything back in my mind to see whole box of supporting of people who really was there when I needed them. And today, I mean, I didn't get emotional, but it can happen. Anyway, when I just look back, I mean, those 4 years were very tough, but very happy too. I mean, of course, it's a mix of emotions, what happened. It's tough for me right now to think back, so I prefer not to, if you are okay with that. And I just wanted to, look forward right now, and maybe when the tournament is finished, I can look back if you want.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well done, her. That's amazing. We're pretty much done. Richie McCormack, thanks so much.
Cheers, lads.
Adrian Barry, always a pleasure.
Nice one.
We've got Peter Canavan for you next.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
We're streaming the courses and we're getting a great response. Simply couldn't do that without a strong broadband connection.
That's Darina Allen of Ballymaloe finding new